I was about 10 when I first started to think about suicide. I was 12 when I was first diagnosed with depression and anxiety, when I first started to have suicide attempts. I had multiple attempts from 12 until about 17 or so. When really what saved me was somebody reached, a complete stranger, pulled me off a bridge late one night, and I decided in that moment, slowly, that I wanted to be like that stranger who helped people, and I didn't want to. I had a purpose. I didn't want to just end all the ways that I could help people. So I think that's what young people need to realize, is that their story matters, their struggle matters, and telling it, sharing it can help other people. I've heard of young kids that, so many times losing their lives to suicide, 12 years old and even younger. And people don't realize that kids this age are dealing with a lot. They're carrying a lot within their frame of reference. You know, if you have stress, overwhelming stress in your workplace, well, just imagine what it's like in that kid's school, who's taking all these courses, who has all these changes in their life and in their body and in their mind. They're competing for attention and for positive regard from everybody around them. It's just like an adult, except they don't have the skills yet, the tools yet, to really know how to deal with that. So, you know, I think that having these kinds of conversations, realizing that the problem is much bigger than we think that it is, just because we're not talking about suicide doesn't mean it's not happening. But when we start to talk about it, that's how we can prevent it.
The child's mother wants me to do this story today. She wants the awareness to be raised. Is that the right thing to do, for the media to start talking about these stories more openly?
I think that it absolutely is. Of course, there's a right way and a wrong way to talk about suicide. There are unsafe, sensationalistic ways that only try to make it a scoop. But then there's really productive public health conversations like this one, I think, that we're having now. And we're seeing more and more parents come out with this. Organizations like Jack.org or the Maddie Project, these are organizations that started by parents who lost young kids often to suicide. So I think that it's incredibly important for media to talk about this, but always to talk about as well, I think, the solutions. It's not just a sensationalistic story. It's not just another death. This is a parent. This is a little girl who had lost the rest of her life, and who knows how beautiful that life could have been. So I think that that's a tragedy, and it's worth reporting on. There's lots of resources out there to help people. If you're a young person, call Kids Help Phone. I myself called Kids Help Phone so many times when I was a teenager, and they talked me down from so many different crises. So I think they're a wonderful resource that are completely confidential. If you need longer term services, don't be afraid to go to an emergency room, get in touch with your local community mental health organization. There are lots of resources out there. There are lots of people who have been there too, and who really want to help.